All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. Some of the viewers requested that I talk about differential equation. And so I'm going to make 3 videos for this. Okay. So the first video, I'm going to talk about an overview. The second video, I'm going to solve, second and third video, I'm going to solve 1 or 2 questions on it just to explain. So basically here, what I'm going to talk about what is a differential equation. And I'm going to talk about the 5 rules you need to keep in mind while solving differential equation. So when we talk about differential equation, we're talking about an equation that involves not just the function of x and y, okay, but also the derivatives such as dy dx. So for instance, this is an example of a differential equation. So dy over dx to be equal to exponential 2x multiplied by exponential minus y. So you can see in this example here that this equation both has dy dx and also have function of x and function of y. Okay. Now, keeping that in mind now, what we want to do here, we want to solve this differential equation such that we're going to get an expression which does not involve this derivative. So basically, we want to solve this in that the derivative of the y dx is going to what? Disappear. Okay, so we just want a function that have only but y, x, and maybe a constant, but we don't need this derivative there. So how do you do it? There are 5 rules when solving this question. So the 5 rules, okay? I'm going to talk about the 5 rules here. I'm going to just mention them. What our advice is after the video, play it back, have a look at it again, review it, take a screenshot if you want to. Then when we get to the next video, when we're solving an example, you just need to be having a look and be comparing, okay? All right, so we have 5 rules for differential equation. So what are the 5 rules? How do you solve it, okay? 5 rules for differential equations. All right, so what you do, the first one, okay? You can rearrange the equation. So the first thing is to first rearrange the equation, all right? Or rewrite, okay? But I prefer to use rearrange. So rearrange the equations, okay? Such that all the y's and y, okay? So rearrange it such that all the dy and y will be on the left-hand side of the equation. Okay. Now, while the dx and the x will be on the right-hand side. Okay. So while the dx and x will be on the right-hand side. Of the equation. So the first thing you do is that you have to rearrange the equation such that all the dy and the y will be on the left-hand side and all the dx and the x will be on the right-hand side. Now, when you're done with that, the second step is that then you then have to integrate both sides of the equation, okay? Then number 2, you integrate both sides of the equation. Now, when you're integrating it, there are some like three things to keep in mind. Now, the first one is that all the rules of integration apply. So for those that have missed my previous video on how to integrate, all the rules of integration applies, integration by parts, integration by substitution, all the rules apply, okay? So all rules of integration applies. Okay, so all the rules of integration applies, e.g., maybe integration by parts. Okay, you can have integration by partial fraction. etc. Okay, so all rules may be integration by parts, integration by partial fraction, how you integrate exponents, all the rules apply here. All right. Now, when you've done that, you need to know that when you integrate, okay, so when you integrate the x, the y, okay, and the x, they become one. All right. So when you integrate them, they just disappear. Does that make sense? Not in the literal form, but it will be just a good way for you to remember. And also, when you're working with indefinite integral, make sure you also add c, the constant term. So I can say, do not forget to add what? C. Okay? When you're working with for indefinite integral, okay? So when you use indefinite integral, definitely when you have no limit, okay? When you have no limit, don't forget to add c to it. Now, when you've integrated it, so the first thing you rearrange the equation. After rearranging the equation and you got that sorted, then the next thing then you have to do is that you have to integrate both sides of the equation. Now, after you've integrated both sides, then you have to make y subject of the formula. All right? So you have to make y subject of the formula. So when you've done that, the next part now that you have to do is that you have to then, depending if the question have extra information. So like if you have an extra information on what the x is, what the y is, or any form of coordinate, then you can now get a value for c. So remember I told you that when you integrate it, especially if it's an indefinite integral, you have to add c to it, okay? So the fourth thing to keep in mind while doing this is that if given extra information, so for instance, extra information on what the x is or what the y is, so if given extra information, then you substitute the corresponding, okay, values for x and y, okay, to get the value for c. And when you get the value from c, so basically you're trying to get the value from c from step, after integrating it in step 2, okay? Okay, so you're trying to get the value for c from step, let me just say from step 2 in the equation, all right? So that means when you integrate, okay, you're gonna get a value for c. So how do you get the value for c? You need an extra information on what the x and the y is, all right? Then when you've gotten the value for c, the next thing that you have to then replace, okay, the value gotten in step 4. So that means the value for c, or let's say replace the value for, yeah. So replace the value gotten in step 4. So that means the value for c you got here, okay, is step 3. So in step 3, that was where we made y subject of the formula. So So you now have to replace the value for C you get in 4 in step 3 to give the full Y equation or expression. Yep, and that is it. So this is what you need to do, okay? So basically what I just told you that when you're talking about differential equations, these are where you have equations that have not just the X and Y functions, but in addition to the functions, they have the derivative as well. And here, what we want to do is that we want to solve this differential equation and to get the Y out of the way, okay? Sorry, the derivative out of the way, so we can just have the Y and the X in the equation. And how do you do it? So I gave you the 5 rules to do that. The first thing you have to rearrange, okay? After you've rearranged the equation, the next thing you have to integrate after you've integrated it. So remember when you're rearranging it, the dy and the y have to be on the left-hand side, the dx and the x have to be on the right-hand side. When you're done, you integrate it, keeping in mind that all the rules of integration applies. When you integrate the y and the x, they become 1. And when you integrate it, it's an indefinite integration, you have to add c. Now, when you're done with that, then you have to now make y student of the formula, and that will be that for that. But if you have extra information, for example, you have the value for x and y, then you can now find c, and then you have to replace that value for c in the original equation in step 3. All right. And then some of you might be asking, okay, how do I apply this? So that's what I'm going to do in the next video. So in the next video, I'm going to pick some examples. We're going to solve it. We're going to just apply these rules and we'll see how we go. So like I said, just write these rules down on your notebook, or you can take a screenshot and keep it in your mind, all right? Look at it again and try to have it by your side when we're going to the next video, where we're going to be looking at the, pick an example or pick an exercise and be following this step one by one. All right. So I'm going to see you in the next video. See you soon.